keeping secrets, are you?
No, sir.
Why don't you spill your beans? Why don't you spill your beans? Why don't you spill your beans?
Let me go, me go.
How long have we been on this rock? 5 weeks? 2 days? Help me to recollect.
Yeah, so it's my pleasure to be here. Let's chat. I think let's just jump straight in.
I don't know what to expect, sure.
Well, neither do I.
We shot this 8 years ago, so let's see how we do.
Let's go down memory lane. I think the first thing, it's always useful to just start with, I'm sure you've told this story 100 times, but just how you got into the industry. I'm from a distance acutely aware that there's sort of, Rob Eggers is like a very definitive moment in your career. There's kind of everything leading to him and everything after. So if we can talk about how you got to that first project with Rob.
Yeah, I mean, we can, how do I do it succinctly? Because it's,
Well.
yeah, I mean, I was just really interested in, like any kid, I didn't want, or many kids, I just wasn't interested in sports. I just wanted to live in the land of make-believe and imaginary play, a little too long, probably.
Sure.
Yeah, when I was a kid, I would just, because we were, there's an element to my upbringing that's like a little bit redneck, and we just would play, we would just be like in the backyard, and I would just make little cities and then have your Star Wars figurines and all sorts of embarrassing things.
Yeah.
But then I really got into photography. I don't know, it was incidental, but my mom just gave me here's a camera, here's a little Kodak camera, everything's automatic, and then I would just start shooting everything, in this little thing. There's no control. I think you put the film speed in, and that's it. And then I did a lot of that, and then then she just gave me her Nikon that she used to use back mostly in the 70s, early 80s. The bicentennial. She and my dad drove cross country and documented everything. My mom was not a bad photographer, actually. My dad's got nothing, but she was pretty good, and it's nice to go through those. Anyway, so I did. I started shooting on that, and then you have to learn the fundamentals of okay, so there's this ring. What the hell is that? And what's shutter speed? And there's little things oh, I want to shoot water droplets in the sun forever because I can freeze water. It's amazing. It's a magic trick. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
And then you just step by step build that stuff, and then.
And can I ask, at this point, was it all for yourself? Did you get pleasure showing photographs to people?
You just get the 4x6s at the the 1 hour photo.
But was it all for yourself at this point? Was it all?
No, I was not putting on exhibitions. No, it was just for me.
Yeah.
So and then there was I just went to a public high school. That was not spectacular in a small town in Central Oregon, but there was a local community college. So I convinced my dad to pay for me to, I'm sure it was $300 for a semester or something. But yeah, I got, so after high school on Mondays and Wednesdays, I just ride my bike up because it's Central Oregon, a butte, which is a volcanic hill, just for you English people. And then, I would just go up and, I guess, become very fit riding up this butte. But up there's a community college, and then, learn how to develop film. They only had 3 courses that were available to me. So, and at the end I was shooting slide film and developing slide film, color slide film, and it was nice. And I'm still in contact with my old teacher on occasion, George Gialoki. So, which is cool, I still have notes from him, little reviews on my photographs, ones that were boring and ones that were, not so bad.
Yep.
And that's, and then I just got really into just the fundamentals and wanting to know why depth of field changes when you stop down a lens, because of how the rays of light, move differently.
And can I ask, did you have, at the same time, were you watching films, motion pictures?
Yeah, sure.
Were you developing a love for cinema in the background?
Yeah, there's one local video store. There's the Blockbuster, which I'm told is the last Blockbuster in America, is in Bend, Oregon, actually, which is where I was growing up. But there's I forget the name of this place, but downtown Bend, which is at the time had 20,000 people. There's like this one quirky, funky place that should not be there, and then it was like, oh, I'm gonna watch, Cook the Thief, Her Wife and Her Lover, like as a teenager, like this is like, I've never seen anything like this is crazy, or wistful desert movies like, or like Paris, Texas, or, whatever, so, it just kind of blew my mind open, because at that point I'm just watching pop, which is fine, like you can learn a lot, they're, I think I said this somewhere recently, but just like, like Steven Spielberg, like hides a lot of filmmaking craft, like in these pop movies that you could really learn a lot from. Like even to this day, I'm like, oh, let's shoot this moment deserves a Spielbergian close-up,
Yeah.
So yeah.
And were you making the association between photography and these films, or were they very separate things at that point?
I guess it was it's like two separate things, because the film is like more storytelling.
Yeah.
But a lot of it's like where to put a camera. Like in my high school, they experimented in having a filmmaking class that no one really did anything in. But like my best friend and I were in this class, and in order to like make our film, like we had to like skip school to make our film. So we made this like dystopian, like black and white, movie about kids. It was about like kids in prison in a school, because like at the time, like you're a teenager, you want to get out of there. So of course that's a popular topic, but also, what was I going to say? It was, but anyway, he and I had like a different shooting style. Like I sort of like, even then, he would sort of do the handheld part of the scene, and I would do like these sort of like formal tableaus, and they didn't really cut together. But but that's when you sort of, even then, I could sort of like look back, because I watched it recently, like see, I mean, they're really boring shots, but they are, sort of my, I guess, I don't know, my taste,
Yeah. And how did that lead to, because it was a short film that you did first with Rob, so how?
So I went to film school. I just moved to New York City. It's kind of a weird thing. I had this like, I'm not sure I can say it. It's like I was like 16. I had like a 20-year-old girlfriend, which is which is funny in retrospect. But I did, and then but like she was like, oh, let's move to it's this whole political thing with your family. Anyway,
sure.
So maybe we won't put that online. I don't know. But like I moved to New York City at 16. Or I think by the time I got there it was like 17.
Sure.
So then I just like started taking classes at the School of Visual Arts, and she was going to fashion school, and it's like New York in 1995, and I'm just and they let me into the school. I showed them the black and white dystopian movie that's embarrassing, but at the time it's like it's what you have, and they let me in anyway, and even then, I was like very excited to shoot film, because that was like the real thing. Because like the short I made before was like on Super VHS. Well, actually, my shots were on Super VHS, and my friend Jeff's shots were on not even high 8, like standard 8mm video. And but I'm going off on a tangent. So yeah, I got in, and I just started. I went to film school for 4 years. My dad made me finish it. I was like, because after 2 years, I'm just ready to. Whatever.
Yeah.
Like, no. So I finished it, and then, but you're just like let out, and there's like, well, how do you? It's just great mystery. Like, how do you get into filmmaking? This is just a weird dream. Like, how do you do this? And I was relatively young, because I started film school, when I did. So I think I graduated 20 or something. And, I feel proud of myself. Like, oh, I'm, a lot of people like went into, I don't know, like. Business school, and they're like, oh, I got to do my passion, So it's like a lot of older people around. So, but but I just sat around doing nothing, because I didn't know like how to get into this, and the only thing I had or knew about was this website called Mandy.com.
Yeah.
I don't even know if it still exists. Maybe I don't know.
I think so.
Okay, amazing.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, okay, great.
Yeah.
So, okay, great.
Yeah.
So then it's just like, okay, so now I'm shooting more student films, fine, and they're just like, bad.
Yeah.
But if it's like, okay, more film experience, and then, there's like different kinds of scenes, because I didn't like leave film school much. So then I sort of slowly built a reel, which at the time I'd borrowed my old friend's computer to like edit, because I didn't have any money for a computer, to like edit a reel slowly that you then have to export onto mini DV, and then digitize that and whatever.
Yep.
So I did have VHS reels that went nowhere, and so I just started shooting more short films, and then they started, like, they slowly got better, but, like, I left, I graduated in 2000, and I was still shooting short films at, like, 2007,
Sure.
Just whatever random jobs I could get. I was working for an antiquarian book dealer.
Yep.
Like, whenever it's like, oh, I'm out of money, oh, can you, can I come in and give me some books to, like, put online or whatever? So, but that ended up being something, just because that introduced me, because he had a lot of, like, children's books, but also, like, a lot of illustrated books, those book dealers. So I got to know, like, he's sort of, one of his specialties was, like, Maurice Sendak books, but also, like, the golden age of illustration, which is, like, a big, still affects me aesthetically now, like, it's just, like, storybook, Duloc and Rackham and, Kate Nielsen and all these people, Harry Clark, just like, they're just so graphic, and that probably influenced me to some degree, like having these, these sort of illustrative, very, like, two-dimensional, like unapologetic, like, two-dimensional graphic images, which is kind of what I had drawn to, So, antiquarian book dealer, and then I finally got a feature. By the time I got my first feature, 7 years after getting out of film school, and, having gone bankrupt and been evicted, at that point, the whole other stories. Then, I've been doing, like, my short films have been getting bigger and bigger, and, what I settled into was shooting short films for Columbia University. So they, this is becoming very long. So but they didn't have a cinematography department, so I just, I was able to, so that's, like, my in, right? So it's like, here's someone who knows how to, like, but they all had money, I mean, for student films, like, at least at that time, So eventually I was shooting, like, $250,000 short films, and I was doing, like, process trailer work out in the desert, like, lighting night exteriors and, like, the outskirts of Salt Lake City and, like, Las Vegas and all this stuff. And then I got my first feature through an agent that I eventually got, who was a character. I'll just, but he finally got me a job, and it was, like, my first feature, and, off of this, like, 35 millimeter reel, I had, like, anamorphic footage. It was just silly, but like, the feature was a lower budget than the short films I'd been doing, So then you kind of, like, start all over again. So, yeah.
Climb a different ladder.
Yeah. And then I met Rob sort of in this whole, like, short film scene I was doing, so he just...
And the short with Rob went well, and then...
yeah, I mean, I don't think it really got seen, but, like, it went well, for us. Like, it was, like, such a, like, the first period film I ever shot. It was the first, like, perfectionist I ever worked with. I mean, it literally took me 8 years to find a perfectionist. Like, that's how hard it is, And I just felt like, oh, I can be myself, And it just felt
because
really
you're a perfectionist too, like you mutually have that together, or
yeah, like we're on a set, and we're like, we have I just remember, like, a macro shot of a floorboard in Telltale Heart, the short film, and like, he's using real dust because he read that the brothers Quay used real dust, so he was going to use real dust. So
how do you collect real dust?
Now he uses Fuller's Earth, what you're ever supposed to use.
Yeah.
But just, like, getting that just right, and I'm just trying to get the right angle of the light, and we're both like, but it's like a small short film, so you can, it's okay, and it was funded by, like, family, friends, and everything. So but that was nice. But then we just kind of became friends because we weren't really working. And I'm still shooting short films, and so I would get him on as a production designer and or a costume designer. So there's, like, stuff where, we're working for a director together, and, like, we're linking up more than either of us were independently linking up with a director. So it was just sort of, you're just waiting for that moment where we can.
And was there a script there? Like, was either Lighthouse or The Witch, like, brewing
I mean, Lighthouse
somewhere?
was, like, an idea.
Right.
Okay. The Witch was probably the third script of his I read. There's, like, something about a doll maker in, like, the 17th century, that was, like, didn't really have a genre, and, and then there's, like, a nice kind of Edwardian movie that takes place in Maine. It was kind of cool. I think he's definitely abandoned it, but it had something to it, and I think it was very personal to him, things like that. But I think The Witch was, like, third and fourth.
Yeah. And then Then The Witch.
Yes.
And presumably everything kind of changed at that point?
Yeah, that took forever to get financed. Like, he
Sure.
somehow got, like, Louise Ford, his editor on the short film, knew Parts and Labor,
Okay.
which is since disbanded, but, Jay Van Hoy and Lars Van Knudsen. And, but, like, how do you get a first-time filmmaker, out there? And, yeah, so I think from, The Witch, that was like 4 or 5 years to get made, so,
But it felt like, I mean, my recent film history might be muddy, but it feels like, to me, one of the first A24 horror films. Like they acquired it, I'm sure, and like that felt like part of a kind of new movement of horror films that you were right at the beginning
that's something that happens after,
Yeah,
It's like, at the time, it's just, he's just a kooky guy who wants, like, accuracy in a horror movie, which is a pretty weird idea at the time,
And I think that leads us nicely to this. So what was the timeline from wrapping The Witch to beginning this?
Yeah, the Witch, I think, wrapped in spring of 2014, and then it was about almost a year before it went to Sundance.
Yep.
And then he got the director's award there, and then he was like hooked up with Studio 8, who was gonna make this night movie, this medieval like fantasy movie. All of a sudden, which maybe is not the time to make that movie, and the script he was sort of, trying to figure it out. It's like kind of a new, filmmaker, how to do this for a big studio, and it became about Nosferatu. Just was a little more contained, but even then it didn't really congeal at that point.
Yeah.
And it wasn't like going anywhere. And like a few years passed, but in the meantime, like people wanted this, this new, very interesting director, and he had this old idea of the Lighthouse. So at a point, he sort of like behind the scenes was like writing the Lighthouse, and probably the first draft was like, or at least the framework, while he's working on, Nosferatu 1.0 that never happened, the first draft was like done by his brother Max, and then but until that point it was just like he wanted to make a black and white movie about it had to be contained because he didn't know the idea was like for a first film,
Right.
So it had to be contained. He just knew it was black and white, and he knew the tone, like all the sounds and stuff. I'm sure he heard at the time,
Right.
and all the shanties and the world building. That for him, that's what comes first, And and he just sent me imagery, and I would sort of respond with like opinions, but also like other imagery, usually old photography, So it just kind of came together aesthetically first, and then they finally wrote it, which happened quickly. I think in couple months in late 2017, just as like the relationship with Studio 8 was kind of falling apart, and then but once they agreed not to make Nosferatu, A24 and Regency were kind of eager to get this going. Kind of I don't know, they're waiting in the wings, but they could have been.
Okay.
So and then that just kind of like fall 2017 to January we're scouting.
Wow.
So which took forever. This was like blah, blah, blah. So
Right. Right. And then, obviously, I mean, I think it's an incredibly beautiful movie. It's an incredibly bold movie. It's black and white. It has a 1:19 aspect ratio, I believe.
1:19.
Yeah. I mean, there's so many things about this that are bold. To just keep it really simple.
I guess it's just like it's probably just like ignorance that is the reason that was like, why not? So
Sure.
why not do that?
But to get to like working with a director who's so well informed, so specific, and you with all of your photography knowledge, to sort of get to that final image, how much testing was involved? How much pre-shooting? Were you taking still
I mean, at the time it was a lot. It's not a lot compared to what we do now.
Right.
But I was trying to find like because I wanted it to be orthochromatic. That was like an early thing. It was going to be 1:3:3, and then I just, I mean, I've said this before, but like, just kind of put out there as a joke, like, oh, there's this, when sound movies started, it was 1:19. That'd be wouldn't that be even more claustrophobic? And then he's like, yeah, it's a great idea. I'm like, oh, okay. So that's kind of popped up on a whim, and then, I mean, I think it looks more like a 30s movie. It doesn't really look like 1890 to me, but that's fine, as long as it just feels from like another time, and a movie made in the 30s that about the 1890s. Cool. The testing. I was trying to find the filter to get the orthochromatic look because there's no ortho movie film. So, to use a blue filter, but that's like 4 stops. Like, you can't shoot a movie like that.
Yeah.
It had to be on black and white film, because, again, we're ignorant. So so yeah, I just went on like a photo dork website that used to be called APUG that became this thing called Photrio. So it's like I just put out there like, oh, are there any like filters that are very, like a short pass filter?
Yeah.
Because I looked up like sort of scientific things, but they're always like this big,
Yeah.
And then Mike Carter, kind of my old contact at Panavision, knew someone working at Schneider who could kind of make it, which is like a dream. I mean, without him, like, a huge part of the look of this movie would not,
And so that's taking out a large part of the red spectrum, but
yeah, it's 500 and I think it's that, because I've done a lot of filters in the meantime. But I think that one, the original was like 565 nanometers, which is like early green and down, so everything above, and it's like a hard cut too.
Yeah.
And so it's like 5/6 of a stop. It's pretty efficient.
Oh wow, okay.
Yeah. Which
But
isn't that bad.
Yeah, I mean, but you're using vintage lenses. You're shooting stock. You've got a filter, and you've got an incredibly high contrast film. So there's a lot of light in these rooms, I imagine.
Yeah. I mean, I find that my eye, what looks natural to my eye is about 400 ISO. Maybe this is different for everybody. So when you're shooting at with this filter on, and it's double X, and I just like a negative with like a lot of information. 'Cause I do like to really dodge and burn in the grade and really because you have a lot of white walls. I do things like emphasize the fall off of the light. To where the corners kind of fall off. It's it's not to like undo mistakes. It's really just to like really give that final 10% to the lighting you were doing. But that's a whole other topic. So I just like a negative with a lot of information in the top and bottom end. So I was like pulling just a little bit, like a half. So between the pull and make sure there's enough shadow information on the negative, and then the filter taking out a stop in daylight, but it's a cyan filter. So if you have a halogen lamp, which is what we're using for the oil lamp,
Right.
I was reading that at 50.
Right.
And then I'm shooting on a Baltar lens, which that particular serial number that it access to falls off, like it just falls apart under 2.8.
Right.
So I'm shooting at 2.8 at 50 ASA, So you have a halogen, like an 800-watt halogen bulb, like right,
You need like mining
right there.
goggles.
So like, everyone's just seeing spots all the time.
Yeah.
So, but
That
but it's, anyway, the point is that like it's hard to judge. Like, does this look good?
Well, exactly.
Especially, at that point, I had a lot of history shooting film, up through that whole like rich student film period. But then the Alexa happened.
Yeah.
Like 2010, and you like slowly lose your confidence in like how to just see a scene,
Right.
because you're just kind of stuck to a monitor. I've thankfully sort of lost that, and I'm shooting on film, regularly again. But at the time, it was like you just see it to your eye. And it's like it's god awful. Like I didn't know this movie looked good at all.
I mean, this just sounds
because
like
it's so
the
bright.
most
It's
terrifying.
What's like
You got Willem Dafoe.
Well, it looks so bright,
Yeah.
and it's just like you're just seeing spots, and like the actors are complaining, and it's.
Yeah.
And you don't know like.
And it's all on you.
Yeah.
I mean, right?
Yeah.
It's a leap of faith,
Yeah.
even with yourself.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
You're-
I mean, now I know what stuff does, and I would test
Yeah.
like a lens and when it flares and how bright you can go. And there's like lots of lens flares in this, and whatever. We got lab reports all the time. Like,
Yeah.
there's a giant flare, But of course, your dailies they all jack up, and it's like, well, yeah, there is, but it's not that bad. But the first 3 weeks, I'm freaking out, But it took like 2 weeks. I always find it takes 2 weeks to like figure out what the fuck you're doing, So
Sure.
But that was like really strong here.
To get like, I forgot, how are we doing? We good? Time,
Okay.
I'm just really interested in like, that sounds so terrifying. To get really granular, if you can remember, because I know it's a while ago, but let's say you've got the two of them at the table over dinner, and you're on Willem's close-up.
Sure.
How are you pure meter? Are you metering? Are you trying to set a contrast ratio? Are you using a digital camera as like a kind of cheat code?
Yeah, it's meter.
Yeah.
I mean, the taps are okay. What you learn over time, once you got
trust
dailies
the
back,
tap
is
image,
that weirdly, the Panavision HD tap. This is, this is a horrible confession, but the HD tap, like I can sort of, with double X, I can sort of judge up until middle gray.
Right.
If you have clipped, like ignore that.
Yeah.
So you sort of know, as long as you don't like, put push up and down on your, because I was shooting the same stock, the same lens, everything.
Yeah.
The filter applies to everything. So, like, if you sort of find the setting on the tap, and you rely on that less and less as you get more comfortable. But this is like a 5-week shoot. That's pretty short, So by the time you learn what you're doing, oh, the movie's over. I hope it's okay. So, yeah.
And again, just to be granular, like how dark is dark, how bright is bright, everything happening in that one close-up, let's say, of Willem.
Well, it's not the close-ups that I'm worried about. The shots I'm worried about, it's like, little, I mean, this movie is, I have to say this, rewatching it today is like, it's so quaint how simple it's shot, It's like, look at that, it's just a tableau. Cool.
Sure.
It might be nice to do that again, I guess, But the shots that are stressful are the ones where it's like, oh, I have this, and I'm just going to look 90 degrees over here, and and I'm like stuck on, practical source lighting. So I have issues, I guess, but like I don't want to add a bullshit light. So it's like, how's that reaching over there, and like what does a half stop look like, or a full stop look like on XX, the way that I grade it, and through the whole chain. So.
And with that amount of light, and with performance, I mean, how restrictive were you having to be with the actors, if you can remember? Like, that amount of light, like strong compositions, were they restricted in their movements? Did you try to give them a bit of freedom?
I mean, I think compared to now, no, but like at the time, yeah. I mean, especially with the frame being what it is. I think I was mentioning to you before we walked in here, like, this is. The table is probably like marginally bigger than this, but like we tested out like how big this table should be for the aspect ratio. Yeah. And how high is the ceiling and all that. So, but they can't lean back. They can't sit like this. They gotta sit like this.
Sure.
Or they're gonna sit like this. Then it's, they gotta move the chair in and whatever.
And it was all a build. Everything was a build.
Yeah, everything's a build.
Yeah, great.
Which is a big luxury.
Yeah. But it felt like, particularly up with the lights, like you tried to be quite claustrophobic and constrained with that space.
I mean, the space is much bigger than a real lighthouse.
Sure.
I'll tell you that. And that, they built out, a luxury for, a second movie and a movie of, a $12 million movie. You have the one on location, which is just scaffolding with like a shitty skin on it that looks great in black and white.
Yeah.
And then we had I think this. You're really jogging my memory now. Then we had like the light room, which is Craig, the production designer, had a acrylic lens made that for this movie, was a big deal because it cost like $100,000 to make out of acrylic. I think what you call a third order, if I remember. It was 8-sided because it needed to be like an octopus. 8-sided rotating. Lens.
Right.
And there's this guy, obscure guy in Florida, made it and sent it up. But if you made it out of glass, it'd be over $1 million, So.
Wow.
And also I'm just simple. Just put the brightest HMI bulb in there. I think it was like a 6K HMI bulb.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
which is just a guess. I think more than that.
Sure.
I was just worried it might melt the
Melt
acrylic.
it down. Yeah. And so how do you test that? I mean, because once they've spent $100,000 on a light, you've got to hope it works.
Yeah.
I mean.
Yeah, it moves, and you just put a bare bulb in there, and because it's a bare HMI bulb, it's like, any scenes with Willem near it, you're like putting sun lotion on them. There's no UV protection. There's no lens in it, right? So. So just slathering up Willem Dafoe naked in a in a lighthouse tower. Cool.
Yeah. And I'm interested, like, when was the last time you saw the film? I know you saw a little bit of it today, but
on full, I don't know, probably a while.
Because I'm fascinated by looking back at your own work. Once a certain amount of time has passed, you kind of can reassess it, and it's almost like someone else shot it. Do you feel that way with this film in any way? Has your relationship with it changed? Yeah,
like I see flaws all the time. Of course, that's just part of it. But I kind of like accept it. Sure. This is a reflection of a time and place and people who made this. Within that cocoon. And, I don't know that, I have stuff in the grade I'm seeing now that I'd be like, oh, yeah, you maybe should have separated that a little more or something. But that is the person who made this, and I would never want to touch it, because it almost would be like betraying the film,
Yeah.
It's like when you recut, Apocalypse Now or something. It's like, well, I don't know. It reflects, I don't know.
When is a film finished?
Yeah.
It kind of, yeah. And what about like, we were talking outside about going from black and white to color again. That somehow that really triggers me. I just feel like working it with pure contrast and grayscale, and then going back into the color anyway.
I don't know.
Well, exactly.
Like, I generally don't like. I think maybe if I ever, I don't know when I'll do a contemporary movie again. I'm totally open to it. But I mean, one thing that sort of is nice about working with Rob is that it because they're all period films, like they can be, it's not a lot of mixed light going on.
Sure.
Like if it's a modern film in an urban environment, you can play with all that stuff. But
yeah.
Maybe I'll do one of those and just make some crazy Storaro color palette or something. But yeah, but it's like I tend to, all the colors desaturated in the movies that we do.
Yep.
And even movies I do for other people, or I don't know, just like I don't like too much color.
Sure.
So yeah, it's all pretty similar for me.
And in terms of sort of diegetic light and naturalism versus sort of theatrical cinematic.
Right. It's just not how my brain works. I don't know how to do it. Like I watch a sitcom, like I know it, like I'm in awe. Like I don't know, like how would you? This is not naturalistic at all, Right. But like I don't know how. It wouldn't occur to me to like do this stuff. Like I don't know.
So what does occur to you? Does it have to be founded in the
real life? Like I'm doing a lot of lighting. Like
Right.
I am doing a lot of just really annoying ball-busting lighting, but it's always like based on what is going on in the real world,
Sure.
So, yeah, it's utterly artificial, The last movie I was burning, and this is not a brag because this is an environmental disaster, but it was like 750,000 watts at a time. You know what I mean? Just to like make daylight on a stage, but like I'm trying to.
Yeah.
It's just the size of the windows and it has to push in and it's the film stock that's right for that film, and the lens that's right for that film and all the other stuff, So it's, but I just have a simpleton's brain. It's just like, well, I'm just recreating what daylight would be in this case on the moors, on an overcast day this time of year or whatever.
Yeah. And is there sort of a conversation happening with yourself where you just feel instinctively when you've done too much or not enough? Are you just sort of reacting to how you feel, or do you go in with a very specific, this is what I'm aiming for, and you're trying to hit that target?
I mean, I do a lot of testing, and that's the other thing. I mean, maybe it would be nice to, maybe a contemporary movie would be good for me to like just kind of break outside, but I guess eventually, and maybe it's soon, like it becomes like stuff that was very exotic, and there might be a danger of it kind of becoming a formula. Like I do have a certain way, like because I just do period films that would just be lit by windows. Like I find I'm kind of doing the same thing, but I find little ways to do it a little bit better.
Yeah.
Like moonlight. Like I probably get more moonlight practice than anybody, which is cool.
Yeah.
And every time I find like a new way to do it, but I'm kind of after the same thing. I'm just getting closer and closer to like what moonlight, like the balance of what moonlight feels like to me.
Yep.
Which doesn't really apply to this movie, sorry. But what does moonlight feel like to me?
I think it does. I mean, I think that.
It's all lamps and stuff, and
Okay.
I mean, when I see like the backlight and the night exteriors, it's but it's okay. But yeah, I'm just like turn that light off. Like usually when it looks bad, just like get rid of stuff, as you know. So. What am I talking about? Yeah, but it's
moonlight,
it's just
naturalism.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's all in the service of like what's like a curated thing you would see in real life is what I'm interested. Maybe it's some sort of like I don't know. It's just something about my brain that's a little bit unimaginative. So it's like I just see a thing. I'm like, oh, that'd be great to put in a movie.
And aspect ratios. Boxy aspect ratios is a Rob thing, so it's a you thing too. Is that where you naturally sit because of your sort of photography background?
I love 3x4.
Yeah,
essentially.
That's just sort of where you.
Yeah, I mean, or 166 is I don't know. I just 185 just I don't. It's kind of like here nor there.
Agreed.
It's just my taste. It's like So it would be nice to do like a really.
Or would you ever do a scope
Yeah,
with Rob?
Yeah. I mean, maybe the Northman should have been 240.
What was that? That was why did
2 to 1.
Okay. Yeah.
Which and maybe I should have shot anamorphic, but I just wanted it to be Rob-like. Anamorphic and Rob. Anamorphic just felt too movie-like.
Yeah.
and that, you know, he's sort of outside of that in my mind for some reason.
And you've just wrapped Werewolf with Rob. Is there anything you can say about that yet, or you're still sort of?
It's. I don't know, what can I say about that? I mean, it doesn't look like. I mean, it's. I think it'll look like a Rob Eggers movie. That's for frickin' sure.
Yeah.
But it has a look that I've never seen it before.
Great.
It's fun. It's playing around, and it doesn't look like anything else we've done. It's kind of like, I mean, the movie is fucked when you see it. It's really, it's fucked up. But the look is also like really broken down, and hopefully in a very intentional. I mean, we had a very tough time making this movie. I won't go into the details. Maybe in a year we'll talk about this, but. But you know, it was very challenging because you know we're kind of like coming out of Nosferatu and trying to control everything. But this movie did not want to be tamed, which is appropriate for you know a movie about Satan essentially. So but it's like we earned every shot. But yeah, it's just like a nice. It's nice in that it challenged us, but it's it has a very gnarly look for sure.
Cool. I can't wait to see
and
it.
it's a little bit more broken. It's more broken down, but I hope in a very. It is intentional, you know. Well, it's like the shadows fall where you want them to, and it's very well tested. But it had a lot of external elements that also came into play.
Great.
So, yeah.
Can't wait to see it. Should we turn it over to the audience? I'm conscious of time.
Yeah.
So what? Yeah, please. Questions. I mean, we can talk about anything, right? Your career today, any of the films.
Sure.
And
a good recipe for
Lighthouse,
preps,
that's what we're here
whatever.
for. Yeah, any questions? Something first?
Was there anything in terms of colour of props or costumes that you had to kind of test and take into account when you were shooting it to get the kind of the right level of contrast you wanted on certain things?
Not really. I mean, I think certainly at that time, it was just better to keep it simple as far as shades of gray. I think Craig, again, the production designer, was sourcing just to get the clapboards and stuff. He was just sort of sourcing wherever, and so there's a little more freedom as far as like the house was a little mixture of different shades of white to pale yellow or to tan or whatever. That just to get like all the salvaged wood he needed to make the set, but it wasn't enough to actually any variation in the color. Like maybe yellow is going to photograph a little darker than a white, especially with this filter, But I just kind of added to the. Yeah, I don't think there's anything. If we wanted, you could say like, oh, we want this dark, let's make it red, but just make it gray.
Because I found sometimes when you do something interesting with color and it goes out to other department heads, they can kind of overcompensate either with you or against you, depending on how they interpret that.
Werewolf has I can't talk about it too much, but yeah, there's like a similar thing going on where I am like kind of exploding the image and putting it back together like Humpty Dumpty in the wrong order. So, but if you just take the I think people initially their instinct was to like compensate for that. It's like no, that's the whole point is to
And it's all relative to the things you can't control.
Yeah, but I mean, you're always nailed to the skin tone,
exactly.
in that movie. But let's talk about this, I suppose. So all your tones are, you can't change the skin tone, you know. So it's all in relation to that,
Yeah. Am I picking?
Hi. We talk a lot about lighting, but I'm actually curious about camera work. It's very precise. And could you tell me more about how you, especially with the camera movements, which just goes into very, very precise lighting from one position of an actor into like, I don't know, just a pan up into very, very centered shot of a square of the circular staircase, or I don't know. Could you talk about that more? Because it's so difficult.
Yeah, I think I tend to think in still images. So this movie is, again, very simple compared to where we've gone, and who knows what the future holds. But even when it's something more elaborate, I'm always connecting the dots. Like make sure that every frame is a acceptable and hopefully a good composition, you know. So yeah, and I like little surprises where it's a tableau and then it kind of goes off this another direction. Like, oh, here's a tableau of Willem, you know, on a leash exiting a house, you know, and then all of a sudden we're like, you know, oh, and now it turns into we're leading him and we go up a hill and a big shot of a grave and we push in and all this stuff.
Technically, how did you do that?
That was that was the first time we ever used a Technocrane, and we were very excited about it. You know, but yeah, I remember Rob said, Technocrane, where have you been my whole life? So now we know the limitations. Like you shoot the Northman, and it's like windy all over you know, constantly. It's like, well, a lot of shots are doing this in that movie. But yeah, I like to have very chosen frames, even again, if you have a kind of a flowing shot, you know. I do this weird thing where before the actors get there, you know, you lay out a shot and you make compositions with where the actors are going to be, and you have to, you know, talk to them, try to find like places that make sense to them as far as where to go. And sometimes we just tell them like, yeah, the cup's over there, you're going over there, sorry. You know, or if, you know, you can't sit like this, you got to sit on this butt cheek or whatever. So just, I don't know, I think it just, yeah, it's OCD, it's storybook, whatever, and which at first is, feels like you're binding them in this really unfair, unjust way, but, you know, eventually, some actors kind of like it, you know, because it just kind of eliminates choices for them. So, and also, you know, I personally also like I like rules too, where it's like, you know, it just simplifies things. Like we're only doing this because of some arbitrary thing. But yeah, so like I'll even take like a handheld monitor, and I'll put the camera at 1 on the track or a crane or whatever, and then I will populate it. I'm looking at the monitor. It's like, okay, so no. Oh, that's a frame, and then I'll like mark me here. Like I'm not even using stand-ins, you know.
Cool.
Or there's a stand-in, and like, okay, now I know this is a mark, and the stand-in will take that mark, and then I'm going to be this person. I just find it's easier to find the shot. And oh, they sat down. It's this, and you know. So I'm actually just, maybe it's kind of embarrassing, but like that's what I do, and it looks funny. But yeah, and then just like these are frames, and then you know this is 1, and here's 2, and then I'm looking at the screen. It's like, you know, dolly right, boom up, no, sorry, boom down a little more, okay, you know, and like that's a frame, and I'm there, and it's like, you know, someone taller than me, I'm like, okay, so they're like this, you know, and I'm just
And Rob's very
around.
specific too, so in terms of composition, like, is there a little arm wrestling over headroom, or you know,
I mean,
background
we don't really
action?
follow, like, we have the actors go to the frame, not the other way around. So there's no like real, you know, we tend not to follow action. Yeah, we don't really follow. Yeah, I'd rather just have a frame accommodate the movement. Okay, just make it a little looser, you know, or whatever. So, or if it's brief enough, that's fine too, you know, to sort of go out. Yeah, but yeah, we're not. Yeah, it's usually the frame is, I don't know, just something kind of omnipotent in a nice way.
Sure.
About it.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. Nice. Should we go there first because you're already there, and then over there?
Hi. You talked a bit about like always coming from a place of naturalism, and I was wondering sort of how you managed that relationship between coming, you know, from a place of honesty, but also polishing, you know, like lighting the space, but also, you know, lighting the faces. Yeah, I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, maybe it's like the Chivo school where it's like you just put them, you know, where. Oh, we happen to be sitting by a window. How convenient, you know. I don't know, and try to sell it some way, or yeah. And you know, now we have a lot of prep where it's where you can sort of design the set around a shot, you know, or where the windows are, you know, or there's like stuff historically that would just be the case that you then you just kind of block around where it looks good as opposed to like having that pesky actor decide where to sit, and you know, then you got to do some horseshit lighting, you know. So yeah.
Did you pre-light this set? The main
Yeah,
sets?
to a degree. I mean, the later movies we were really pre-lighting. like for example, the castle in Nosferatu. I was lighting that for weeks because I knew that, you know, we had some complicated stuff that I don't even know you really notice in the movie, honestly. But like, you know, like when Thomas goes to kill the vampire and the sun's setting, you know, we had this like motorized mirror. We had, well, because I like really complicated things. So we, you know, against another movie, but you know, I'm kind of stuck on naturalism. So, you know, how hard is the sun actually? You know, I had a friend do math for me, and I said, well, here's an Arimax 18K with a spot reflector. How far away would that be to be the same relative size as the actual sun? You know, and it's about 70 meters, in case you're interested.
Okay.
So, so then it's like, how do I get 70 meters on a stage, right? So then I'm like using mirrors on set, but then you have a lot of light pollution because you're shooting at like, I'm shooting like over the roofs of all the stages, because sometimes you'll have like 4 buildings on a stage. Yes, so I'm like shooting it over, you know, all this stuff, and they have all these chains that you have to make sure you're going on. So that requires a pre-light for sure.
Wow.
So yeah, but then, you know, and then it's like the beam, it gets complicated. So in the castle, for example, I'm like shooting at, you know, make sure you get a 70 meters, or as close as we can to it. Yeah, across the whole stage, hit a mirror, and then return it, and it adds up to 70. But then having that gelled, and how do you gel that, but not get too much white light all over the set that then is coming in and, you know, destroying your color contrast, because in Nosferatu, when he kills the vampire, it's, you know, you got to have blue of a certain color that you're testing, and you have, you know, a certain kind of reddish orange that you're testing, and then going through your grade and whatever contrast your baseline contrast and your baseline saturation. And yeah, so there's a lot of testing going on there. I forgot the question.
It doesn't sound like a rock up in the morning and see how it looks.
No. Yeah, it's like some sets I actually will pre-light for weeks, you know, and then and in some cases shoot them, get the dailies back, and put it through our grade. And it's like, oh, you know what? Because we desaturate 15%, I need to like stretch out the color contrast like even more. So on set, sometimes it'll look a little cartoony, but I know that, you know. Yeah. So once you take that 15% out, or whatever else the grade's doing, because the grade on Werewolf is bonkers, you know, like you do need to test these things.
And is that do you leverage Rob to give like those conversations with producers and stuff to enable pre-lights like that? Do you have to sort of leverage? Is Rob? Does he want to see it?
Yeah, he's gonna. Yeah. I mean, they'll sort of listen to me, but you know, but yeah, you need the support of the director for sure.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sounds like it. There's someone over there. Yeah.
Hi. So there's a lot of this interplay between the physical narrative and then, of course, you know, more Jungian psychological stuff underneath. So how much of that is sort of at the forefront of your discussions with Robert Eggers as well as maybe the rest of your team?
I mean, I don't know if that really, has much to do with you know. Yeah, that didn't really influence the lighting or the composition. What a lame answer, but not really. Wish I had something else.
Yeah, I think Eben sort of touched on it, but I just wondered how sort of prescriptive Robert is with the composition and framing, because obviously everything feels so it's kind of specific. So I wondered how much of that comes from you and how much of that comes from Robert, and how do you sort of find that middle ground?
I think it's fair to say I have like a great deal of freedom, with the caveat that, you know, I know his taste, so there's like a Rob filter, like. I'm the one running around with a finder, finding these compositions, but, you know, 93% of the time he likes them, you know what I mean? We also have very strict rules, like, you know, as the movies go on, like, it's kind of one focal length. This movie was all in a 35, a wide lens was a 30. Maybe we used a 40 occasionally. It's still the same sort of thing. It's just, you know, at a point you just walk around the set and you just naturally see 35 millimeter, you know, which is a 40-degree horizontal angle of view, and you're just like, you know where the frame is. So it just kind of simplifies things. I'm getting off another point, I suppose, but, you know, like I know that, yeah, a 35 millimeter lens is this big. You know, I just don't I don't know what a 24 looks like. Is it this? You know, but I'm always looking at it's just, again, eliminates choices, and I kind of like that. And it's also nice, it's a focal length that you can play from a wide into a close-up. You know, you barely get a wide, but at this point we're like designing sets to a lens, you know, so you can sort of do that. But yeah, there's just an amazing amount of trust. I think if working for someone else, it would be at a whole other, you know, I would probably posit different ideas a lot of times. But yeah, with Rob, I just know he likes it symmetrical. I think this has a little bit, watching it again, has a little asymmetry. I think Nosferatu, well, certainly The Northman, which is all like, you know, basically tapestries of like people lined up in a row, and it's, you know, very OCD, and Nosferatu to a different degree. And I think Nosferatu kind of works because it's, you know, it is very mannered, you know, and people like sort of standing in a frame, you know. But this is a little bit, this is a little more ramshackle. You know, I know like we're talking about, it's so precise, but, you know, compared to other stuff, it's, you know, it does look a little something.
Does he come to set with a shot list that you then?
This movie is mostly shot list. I think it's fair to say I have, you know, a large role in the film language. So, you know, I tend to throw out the wilder ideas, but we have a long relationship, and if it's ridiculous, he's going to tell me.
Right.
You know. So yeah, I think he tends to like things. He'll take a little more to the point, and I'm always trying to just kind of push things, you know. But sometimes I will go too far, and he's like, "You're trying too hard, dude." So yeah.
Okay. Oh, there's one more. Oh, one more. Thank you.
Hi.
Hi.
I was wondering, were you playing with the camera speed? Because sometimes it looked to me as if you were filming slightly slower than 24 frames per second, and it came like because it was.
No, it's all 24.
Because sometimes it had this weird speed to me. I wondered.
I don't know.
No.
By the way, I have to say that they need to make a film print of this movie. By the way, I'm so sorry. Like this we made a film print of Nosferatu. We should have the film print of this
It's
movie.
DCP only at the moment. Like,
I know. We never made a print. So
A24.
we've got. I know. I gotta bust their chops about that.
Yeah.
I think it was talked about, but it never happened. There's actually, I'm going. This is totally other point, but like, you know, Yariv, who one of the big people at Regency, I owe him this. I'm going to say it publicly. I owe, like we had actually some negatives printed out, so I could like go into a dark room and like make silver prints of some frames for the Lighthouse and give it to him. And this is me admitting that I owe Yariv that. So I still have these negatives I got to print.
Wow,
Yeah.
amazing.
But there's no print of this movie.
Well, yeah.
Which is annoying.
We should have got one for this.
Well, it doesn't
10-year
exist,
anniversary.
you know what I mean?
But
So,
yeah, I mean, yeah.
And because there's like enough effects work, you have to like film out and all that. So
Well, yeah.
yeah,
Hopefully.
yeah, for archives and nothing else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, on that note, it's been a pleasure chatting and meeting you.
This was nice.
It's been really nice, and hopefully we can do this again for Werewolf. I can't wait to see it. It sounds great.
Yeah, or whatever. I'm honored. You know.
Great.
Yeah.
Let's have a drink in the bar.
Cool.
Thank you very much. Thanks, everyone. Thank you. Thanks.